I don't think I can follow that. All right.
Hey.
We're good? We're live?
We're live.
Sweet. I never know.
Dude, we haven't been in here in a minute.
Well, you haven't.
We haven't been in here in a minute.
That's true. Extraneous circumstances. You almost couldn't come today.
I know. We had crazy weather in Fayetteville. It was like
6 inches of snow.
Which is crazy for Fayetteville.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy for the South.
Most places. I talked to a lady at Food Lion, which is the local grocery store in North Carolina, if you don't know.
We talked about it on episode 0, remember?
We did?
How much I hate
Oh,
Food
my
Lion.
God. That's right. You used to work there.
Yeah, for like 8 months.
Yeah. Yesterday, we talked to a lady there that was from Chicago, and she literally looked at us like we were idiots when we were like, yeah, it's supposed to get pretty crazy tonight. We're supposed to get kind of a lot of snow. And she was like, I've had like 14 feet of snow. We were like, oh.
Yeah, dude, I was texting my parents. They're like, fill your bathtub full of water just in case
Fill your bathtub full of water.
Just in case you need to flush your toilet.
Fill your bathtub full of milk. Everybody's buying milk. I don't know why. Just do it.
I actually made that joke. I was like, I'm going to fill my bathtub full of milk.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. We're on the brainwaves.
I actually said that.
We got the same brainwaves, dog.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, same. I'm happy we're doing this. Today we're going to honor all 7%?
6.7% of
your
what?
Greek heritage.
Oh my God, dude. Yes. You asshole. Yeah. It's the proudest 6.7% of my blood.
Yeah.
So,
there we go, man.
We're gonna honor that.
We're going to talk Orphism. For those who don't know much about Orphism, I've got a little bit of notes on this one because it's kind of like a technical conversation. But it's super dope. What do you guys know about Orphism?
All I know about Orphism is it's like is it a religion? Is it
kinda? Yeah,
I know it's
you
about.
could say that.
I know it's like about Dionysus, but it kind of looks at Dionysus in a little bit more of like respectful, right? Rather than he's just a drunken bastard.
Yes.
It's like it's like Dionysus when he becomes the god of gods, and it's all about like death, resurrection, like that kind of stuff. It looks at Dionysus as more of a parallel to like Osiris and
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the extent of what I know.
That's literally like a very shotgun spread. Like that's encapsulates it. But obviously we're going to go deep. Yep. Bye, guys. Alex, you know anything about Orphism? Ever heard of it?
I think I just heard that word for the first time today.
Really?
We've talked about it on episodes a few times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the myth of Orpheus, it's very important if you get into like, Freemasonic, Rosicrucian, these kinds of like secret societies that have transmitted this knowledge from different cultures through generations. Orphism is very important. It's kind of like the Greek mystical, one of the main Greek mystical versions of Egyptian mysteries. So,
right, it's considered like Greco-Egyptian. Is that a thing?
They don't necessarily call it Greco-Egyptian, but
okay.
The influence is very heavily from Egypt. So there's a mythological version of Orphism. I'm going to start with the mythological version, just the basic, introduction.
Okay.
He was the god Dionysus Zagreus, which is in the myth. He's like, in some versions he's the son of Zeus, in some versions he's the son of Hades. There's different versions of the myth.
Oh, really?
Yep. Zagreus is the son of Hades.
Zagreus. I know Zagreus is the son of Hades, but I'd never heard of Dionysus Zagreus.
Well, that's the Orphic version of Dionysus.
Oh, so they're kind of like the same.
Yes.
Okay.
So the Orphics, and I'm going to go a little more into like how they were contextually at the time period. The Orphics had a different version of Dionysus than, say, like the mainstream classical Greek Hellenistic religion,
Right, yeah.
So a little bit on that, everybody knows about like Zeus, Heracles, which I know Disney calls him Hercules. That's not right. That's the Roman version.
That's so weird how that happened,
I think it just sounded better. Hercules.
It does. It sounds
way,
much better.
Yeah, but like Heracles, Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, all that good stuff. Everybody knows about the exoteric Greek belief system, which is called Hellenism, and then you had other very influential sort of mystical Greek philosophies. You could call them philosophies, you could call them religions. You had the Eleusinian, it's hard to, it's spelled weird, Eleusinian, like the mysteries of Eleusis.
Eleusis.
Yes, Eleusis. It was the spiritual capital back in very close to Athens, back before like
Yeah, well,
God, I
man,
can't-
I'm only 6.7% Greek, so I don't know about that.
well, I'm 0% Greek.
Oh,
So yeah,
cool.
I just
and
get
you
on,
just showed me up. All right, great. Sick.
I just get on Google. Before I can't remember what the spiritual it's blanking my mind. There was the spiritual capital of the world where everybody would go on these pilgrimages, but it used to be Eleusis back in like way ancient Greece.
Okay.
And anyway, so you had the Eleusinian Mysteries, which is like your typical cult shit, your typical like you see people worshiping nature, the whole, human sacrifice, all the like orgies out in the woods and shit, that's the
orgies out in the woods, human sacrifice.
all that. That's all that Eleusinian stuff. The
normal Tuesday.
The more like pagan mystery versions of Hellenism. And then you had Pythagoreanism,
Okay.
which is the mystery school of Pythagoras. We're going to go a little more into that too.
A squared plus B squared.
Yeah. Well, actually, the funny thing about that, modern scholars tend to believe that he actually didn't come up with that theorem, and it came from like a much older mathematician.
So you're just going to continue to shut me down. All right, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, calm down, 6.7.
Okay, 0.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 0.
Yeah, you put me in my place. But yeah, that's the cool thing. Like when you get into the Greek mysteries, I read The Lightning Thief growing up, obsessed with them. We've all played God of War. There's so much like popular Greek culture, and it's kind of like trivialized, but it was actually a very mystical foundation to their system there, which comes from Egypt. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So you had Pythagoreanism, which was, Pythagoras was more of a philosopher. He wasn't necessarily even a mathematician. That's kind of like not historically factual. Then you had Orphism, which was the very Egyptian mystical, I don't know, kind of like sacred. It is mystical. I'll get into it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so to set the stage a little more on Orphism, there was this Greek god from the Hellenistic version of, the mainstream Greek religion called Dionysus.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about Dionysus. Just like explain.
Dionysus, Bacchus is like the Roman version,
same
kind of.
entity, yeah.
Dionysus is the god of ivy and wine.
Mm-hmm.
The backstory, I guess the Hellenistic backstory of Dionysus is that they call him the twice born god because he was like born prematurely, and then Zeus, who in the Hellenistic version is his father, Zeus like cut open his thigh and put Dionysus in his thigh so that he could continue growing. And he was like he's kind of like a party god in the Hellenistic version.
Wine.
And also though, even in the Hellenistic version, he used wine and alcohol and stuff to like reach like a higher state of consciousness.
Yes. And music.
Yeah.
The classic trope of like sex, drugs, and rock and roll that came from the cults of Dionysus.
Yeah.
Where they would like get extremely drunk on wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a real ancient Greek culture.
Yeah.
And they would have these rhythmic, like ritual drum type chanting musical ceremonies, and they would have orgies.
Yeah. He's also
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
He's also
that's where that comes from.
Yeah, often associated with orgies.
Yes. Now,
wine and orgies.
Again, this is ancient Hellenistic Dionysus. That's the profane or the mundane, like exoteric version of how Greeks celebrated Dionysus.
Yeah.
And you know what's cool? Like, how the Pope has all this like fancy schmancy gold stuff, and he sits on this throne, and he's all like, I love Jesus, but he's like got this big old cap and this big gown, and he has a golden scepter.
Mm-hmm.
That scepter is the staff of Dionysus, right?
The Thyrsus.
Yes,
it's called.
Yes, it's got the pine cone at the top.
Yeah. I want to get one tatted right here.
Yeah. That's what you were gonna do, right?
Yeah,
and then you got the Keyblade.
I got the Keyblade.
Other arm definitely has to be the Thyrsus.
Yeah, it's got to be. I'm gonna get that.
So people are like, why is Dionysus relevant? The Greek religious shit ain't real. Well, remember, what we're trying to establish here is that all of these mainstream and esoteric non-mainstream religions in some way or another can be traced back to Egypt.
Yeah.
Very much so, including, Christianity. Orphism very heavily influenced Christianity because it came around right before the Christians did in, the first century.
Mm-hmm.
Orphism influenced like Plato. We're going to get to that too. So very prolific. There's not a lot of firsthand texts or sources from the Orphics, but like all these famous classical Greek philosophers at the time were writing about the Orphics.
Right, yeah. It's like you don't have to believe. It's like this with most religions. It's like you don't got to believe every detail, but there is a lot of truth woven in there that's more ancient than it. Than
so
it is.
this is the basic like mythological representation of the story of Dionysus according to the Orphics. So Orpheus was a real living Greek poet. They had like Homer who orated the Iliad and the Odyssey. When I say orated, I mean like he spoke these. It's like poems, basically. Very popular in Greek culture.
He had a really popular show called The Simpsons.
Well, yeah, he didn't make that. He starred in it.
Right.
That was Matt Groening.
Yeah, you're right. I'm an idiot. You're right.
Yeah, also made Futurama. Dope.
Futurama's actually
it's one of my
so good.
favorite all-time
There's also that
cartoons.
one Disenchanted. Did you?
Yeah,
it's
I haven't
good.
seen it.
It's good.
I haven't seen it.
It's good.
Yeah,
I've seen that one.
You like it?
You like
Yeah,
it?
I do like
It's good. It's funny.
Have you seen Futurama?
No.
Dude, you've got to watch Futurama.
It's funny. I know we're getting on a tangent, but I find most people, Futurama is their favorite.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really good. Alex, you should definitely watch it, man.
It's crazy.
It's hilarious.
Good. Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. Remember the Ninja Turtles when they dropped the pizza?
Oh
yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Anyway, so the basic mythological version of Dionysus, according to the Orphics, which was inspired by the real poet Orpheus. He was telling this through poetry. Now, obviously, when you get into like the occult and esoteric literature, back then, this was a part of everyday waking life. They didn't like play video games and make like bikini videos on TikTok and shit like that. Like they walked around in their wake. We were just talking about that before. We were just talking about that. Hot tub streams.
That's why I was laughing.
We were talking about hot tub streams.
You found a way to weave it in.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Anyway, they weren't doing all that kind of dumb stuff back then. Like these spiritual traditions were a very important part of everyday life. Like everybody knew about this. The Christians knew about the Orphics. As a matter of fact, they very heavily influenced the Neoplatonists who, wrote the Book of John, the most like widely accepted gospel to be like
that's
the
written
most
by
important.
Neoplatonists. It is?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I learned that in college.
No way.
Yeah. Neoplatonist meaning like followers of Plato, in his philosophy.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Go read the Book of John. It talks about Jesus ascending up to the heavenly realms and being like a being of light.
Damn.
It's very different from the other three Gospels. As a matter of fact, when you get into the academic study of the New Testament, the Synoptic Gospels are the three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They are actually in a separate category from John, which is accepted to be written by Greek philosophical thinkers. They're not written by the apostles. It's not written by a dude named John. It's not written by Mark. That's not true. It was written a long time after Jesus died when these people weren't around. But yeah, that's important to know. The Book of John. I mean, we've said this before, but like my grandma taught me this. Back when I was curious about Christianity, if I was to get into the New Testament and start reading it, what should I read? And she said, well, Billy Graham says the Book of John is the most important. Like it's accepted by Christians to be the most important gospel. They don't even know that it was written by mystical Greek.
And hands down, the most quoted Bible verse is in John 3:16.
Yeah, John 3:16.
The most.
And remember, we talked about this on episode 1. The opening scripture is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and was with God, and was made flesh or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you like talk to Greek speaking and Greek reading scholars, they'll tell you that the word was logos, which means like the mind. In the beginning was the mind.
Yeah, and the mind was with God, and the mind was God.
Mind was God. Yeah,
the mind was God.
That's
it's right there.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So okay. So mythological version of Orpheus's version of Dionysus. Okay. Zagreus Dionysus, or Dionysus Zagreus. He was kind of like this syncretistic fusion of the son of Hades and the son of Zeus. So they called him
Hermes Trismegistus.
Yes.
What is that called again?
Hermes.
What is the thing called?
An amalgam.
Yeah.
Like an amalgamation.
Yeah.
So he's Dionysus Zagreus. So like he's the son of Hades, but he's also the son of Zeus. It's just whatever. Just accept it. And
I'll accept it.
In the Orphic myth, the divine child, son of Zeus, his symbol is a snake. by the way.
Mhm.
I don't know why I did the little
Snake.
snake with my hand.
His symbol is a snake.
He's a snake.
Those are fangs.
And he's the son of Zeus and Persephone.
Mm-hmm. Zeus and Persephone.
Yeah,
Oh.
in some
Okay.
versions of the myth.
Okay.
Zeus intended to make Dionysus Zagreus, his heir and bestow on his unlimited power upon him. Hera, out of jealousy, which is like in Hellenism, is the wife of Zeus, urged the Titans to slaughter Dionysus, just mess him up.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the Titans, they went and they slaughtered Dionysus Zagreus. They tore him to shreds. The only thing they didn't touch was his heart. So Athena manages to save his heart, brings it to Zeus. Zeus swallows it. Zeus kills all the Titans with a lightning bolt. Keep in mind, this is not literal. I don't think this actually happened. It's all esoteric metaphor.
Yeah.
They're explaining Egyptian mystical mechanisms through a story. That's all. That's all mainstream religion is. It's a story.
A little tiny fun tidbit. If anybody wants to look this up, there's a song we really love called "Ivy and Wine."
Ivy and Wine
by Glass Cloud.
Yeah.
And you don't. It's very heavy metal music, so
Yeah,
a lot
like,
of you. Yeah. Good one. I like
Yeah,
that. You
yeah.
could be our vocalist whenever
could.
we start making music.
Cool.
But if you don't want to listen to it, just read the lyrics. It's literally exactly what
Yeah.
Ryan's talking about.
Son
right
of
now.
the God of Gods.
It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Anyway, so he swallows his heart, punishes the Titans with a lightning bolt, blasts them to soot and ash. And then from those remains of the Titans, the mortals are born, us, humankind. And it's basically the metaphor. Oh, by the way, and then Zeus has another child. He goes from Zagreus to be born as Dionysus, the twice-born version.
So it's like when he's born again, he becomes Dionysus.
Yes.
Cool.
He's born again.
Yeah,
That's
I
important
know.
to remember.
I know.
He
That's so
dies and is
crazy.
reborn. He goes into the underworld.
Yeah.
Also in the Orpheus myth, Orpheus has his own little myth he writes about himself where he goes into the underworld and then comes out of the underworld. There's always this, every like Christ figure, every Jesus, every Krishna, every freaking Osiris, whatever, they always go into the underworld and then come back. Right?
They're like reborn. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like when you're baptized in water, what does that esoterically mean? You're descending into the underworld and then you're coming back out into the realm of the living.
Yeah.
Anyway, and let's see. Made from he calls him Dionysus. Zagreus comes to be identified with Dionysus in the Orphic mythology, which is, previously the Hellenistic religion had their own version, like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They would have these orgies, and it was basically like a fertility cult. The Orphics shunned that. It was very sacred. Dionysus was a very sacred Christ-like figure to the Orphics. There were no orgies. There was none of that like getting messed up on wine. It was very much a purity-based thing. And
was Orphism like a widespread religion, or was it
Yes.
more of like a small cult thing?
it was widespread, but it was a secret. It was
esoteric.
It was initiatory. You had to be initiated. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go into this later, but they believed the only way you stopped reincarnating was becoming initiated into the Orphic Mysteries.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
Very important to mention that the Egyptians heavily influenced the Greeks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Egyptian myths exerted a lot of influence on the Greek mythology, especially during the 6th century, because there were merchants traveling back and forth between Egypt and Greece. The Greeks were very aware of the Egyptian cult of the dead, Osiris, also very heavily venerated Isis. In Rome, especially like the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, the cults of Isis were widespread, very big into Isis worship. And anyway, so the dismemberment of Dionysus at the hands of the Titans mirrors Osiris being dismembered by Set, the god of the darkness, what have you.
Yeah, it's like a direct parallel.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's also believed by scholars that Pythagoras was the famous Greek philosopher who brought the Egyptian mysteries to Greece. So,
really?
Yes. So, according to, here's a little excerpt I got that was really cool, but according to Clemis, who was an ancient Greek philosopher, Pythagoras not only studied with the Egyptians, but also the Chaldeans of Mesopotamia, the Magi of Iran, the Galatians of Asia Minor, the Brahmins of India, and an Assyrian teacher named Nazaratos. Important to remember that the Pythagorean religion was very heavily linked. It's similar to the mysteries of Orphism, but also was more involved with numerology.
The Pythagorean religion?
Oh, yeah, he had a cult. The Pythagorean cult.
What?
Yeah. Pythagoras had a mystery cult. Dude, I got invited to go to a Pythagorean school.
What?
Yeah. I couldn't go. It was out in Idaho.
You got invited to a cult school?
Yeah, I did.
What?
I wanted to go, but it didn't work out. It's not a cult school. You just go and you learn about like
That's
numerology and sacred geometry. And
That's
stuff like
wild.
That. Yeah, dude. So anyway, so just important to remember that we're gonna do an episode on Pythagorean mystery system too, because it has a lot of similar beliefs like reincarnation, transmigration of the soul. It's a fancy scholarly word for reincarnation, but also very heavily involved with numbers. Sacred geometry was brought from Egypt to Greece by Pythagoras.
Okay.
He was not a mathematician. He was an occultist. He was a mystic. Pythagoras traveled the world. He traveled to India, learned from the Brahmins, just like I said, traveled and learned from the Assyrians, the Chaldeans, took all that stuff, brought it to Greece. Kind of like Jesus brought it to Judea.
Mm-hmm.
You see what's happening? there?
Yeah.
How Jesus was not the only sage that was like revealing Egyptian mysteries to the masses. He's just the one the Vatican ran with for 2,000 years.
Yeah. He's the poster child.
Yeah, there were people before Jesus that were doing
So
this.
then Pythagoras was just involved in numerology, and that was like commonly misconstrued as
Mathematics, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
Yeah. Some people believe he might not have even been a mathematician, and that the Pythagorean theorem did not even come from him, and it was attributed to him like centuries after his death. That kind of stuff always happens.
I mean, yeah, I could totally see that.
So the Orphic views and practices have parallels to elements of Pythagoreanism, and various traditions hold that Pythagoreans or Pythagoras himself actually authored early Orphic works. Alternately, later philosophers believe that Pythagoras was an initiate of Orphism. So there is some thought that maybe he himself was even an Orphic initiate.
Damn.
The extent to which one movement may have influenced the other remains controversial. Anyway, the point is they became separate traditions that were eventually merged. Let's see. Plato, in one of his writings called the Meno, he mentions the Orphics and how there is great wisdom in their mysteries and what they teach. So anyway, I'm just kind of like moving past the philosophers, but what I'm getting at is they in the ancient past, there was a lot of importance on Orphics, what they taught, what they believed. There was weight behind it. Kind of like the Christians.
Yeah.
You know, how it was this like cult that was forming that was, okay, we should make this mention. Just because you call something in the ancient past a cult, by the way, the definition of a cult in the 1st century or in, 900 BC, 1st century, 2nd century, they were just these groups that were going around teaching their religious views.
Right. Yeah.
Technically, according to like the Academy of Religion, Christianity was a cult for 300 years.
Really?
Yes, it was a cult.
I guess before it kind of like really took off.
Well, Constantine made it legal. 313, and then Emperor Theodosius in like 380 or something like that made it the state religion of Rome. But before then, it was a cult. They had to practice in tombs. They were being slaughtered. So
yeah. So if you have any aversion to the word occult, just know that.
Well, I'm saying cult like CULT.
I thought you were saying occult. Okay.
No, in this context, they were cults.
So Christianity was a cult. I see what you mean.
Yeah, it was. It was a cult. The Orphics were a cult. Pythagoreans were a cult. It just means they were these smaller groups.
Yeah.
Not necessarily any sort of evil connotation there. We're just talking like scholarly. So here's what the Orphics believed. Oh yeah. So there's a link between Orphism, Pythagoreanism, and Eleusinian Mysteries. God, that's a hard word. The Eleusinian Mysteries were the initiations held every year for the cult of Demeter and Persephone. What do those two goddesses have in common? Well, first of all, Demeter's, I'm pretty sure, Persephone's mother in the myth. Second of all, they're both fertility goddesses.
Right.
Persephone, she goes into the underworld during fall and winter.
Eats a bunch of pomegranates or something like that.
Yep, eats a bunch, I think it's pomegranates. And then she comes out of the underworld through spring and summer, and life comes forth.
Right, yeah.
Right? It's just fertility. It's metaphors for life being brought forth from nature.
Yeah.
Demeter is like the goddess of agriculture in Greek myth. Let's see, they're the most famous of the secret religious rites of ancient Greece. Talking about the Eleusinian Mysteries. Pythagoreanism, they believed in immortality and the transmigration of the soul, reincarnation. The idea that after death, souls went to heaven or occupied the bodies of men or animals. So you might come back as a man, you might come back as an animal. That's what they believed. Let's see, they also thought that pure knowledge was the essence of the soul, and the best means of attaining pure knowledge was through numbers.
Ooh.
Sacred numerology, sacred geometry. Remember the Donald Duck cartoon I showed you where he has the pentagram on his hand?
It was crazy, dude.
He joins the cult of Pythagoras.
I could not believe what I was seeing was a real thing, but quick Google. What was it called again?
Donald Duck goes to Mathemagic Land.
Mathemagic Land.
There's magic in the numbers. There's an energy behind certain mathematical ratios, certain mathematical formulas. There's an energy behind them that like generates life in nature. And the human body has certain ratios that are, remember, it's spirals. It's the math for spirals.
Right.
That's all that means. That's what the pentagram means. It's not like, oh, the devil, he's in the star. That's stupid. That's not what that means.
Yeah.
Huge parallels to Gnosticism and Hermeticism, the Orphics. And back to the Pythagoreans, they believe the body to be a sort of prison mechanism containing the soul that can only be escaped through purifying the soul through reincarnation.
Orphism, by the way, is obviously after Gnosticism and Hermeticism.
Before. No, everything's after Hermeticism.
That's what I'm... Okay.
Gnosticism comes from Orphism.
Ah.
Yeah. I'm going to get
I thought it was like Hermeticism, Gnosticism, then Orphism.
Well, Gnosticism is the mystical Christian religion.
Right. That makes sense.
Orphism is that same belief system, but how the Greeks believed it, which is all coming from Hermeticism, the original ancient truth.
So Orphism is like ancient Greek Christianity.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He's the Greek Jesus.
That's a cool way. Yeah, that's a cool way to put it.
Yeah. And Osiris is the Osiris Horus, because they're an amalgam too, is the Egyptian Jesus. Krishna is the Hindu Jesus. There's always a different Jesus, but they're always older than Jesus.
Right.
Makes you think.
Yeah.
You know, they're older than Jesus. Wonder how that is. Anyway.
Interesting.
Maybe like Jesus came after and was like a copy of those versions, and I don't know. Maybe it's an archetype that has existed forever and they're just telling it throughout the ancient past with different names, right?
Did we do an archetypes episode? I think we did.
I think we did.
Yeah. It's an important concept. And yeah, that's Jesus.
Like maybe King Arthur's the Masonic Templar version of Jesus. I don't know. I can't figure it out. But
I can't figure it out.
Anyway, so the Orphics believe the uninitiated reincarnated indefinitely until finally initiated in the Orphic mysteries after like reaching them in a lifetime. Kind of like how the Hermetics said that you're going to reincarnate until your soul is ready to receive the Hermetic text, the Hermetic wisdom. Remember, like the Kybalion says, when the student is ready, you'll receive the key, which is the temple to the psychic, the key to the temple of psychic wisdom. Yeah. Anyway, major theme of Orphism is duality, which influenced the Gnostics, right? Which influenced the Templars, which became the Freemasons. Important. We're going to do a Templar episode.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Oh, yeah, dude. So it's basically the same thing as the Egyptian field of reeds. You just keep reincarnating until you purify your soul. They abstain. A lot of Orphics abstain from eating meat. They just believed it had impurities in the meat. They would abstain from eating certain things. Like some of them didn't eat beans. I don't know why. I like beans.
Probably because they make you fart.
Probably.
Beans are great.
Yeah, I like beans.
Alex talks for the first time in the episode to say beans are great.
It's only solid input from my side of the room.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah. If
solid.
you learn anything today or from this episode,
beans are good.
But
remember that.
The cool thing to keep in or like to remember here that all these belief systems have in common, like the Gnostics, the Orphics, the Hermetics, they all had this same thing in common. You're born into this little illusion.
Yeah.
Or some of them called it a prison, like the Pythagoreans and the Gnostics. Some of them call it a game, like the Masonic chessboard. Like this is the game of life, and you're trying to win the game. What they all have in common is you're coming here over and over again until you purify your soul, so you don't have to reincarnate anymore, and you go back to the world of spirit, the spiritual world. Anyway,
collective consciousness.
Yeah. Getting your heart light as a feather. Duality, which was obviously borrowed from the Egyptians, the Hermetic law, the Masonic Templar. Oh, I already said this. I'm getting ahead of my notes. The divine spark of the cosmic mind of God.
The all-spark.
Yeah, the all-spark. But the fact in the myth that the humans rose from the ashes of the Titans, they're born from the ashes. So man is part Titan, but also part like God, part Dionysus. So they're part evil, which in the myths, the Titans are evil. Part evil, but part good. Or it's that duality, black and white. You have light and you have shadow.
That's also low-key kind of a parallel to like resurrection too. Being born from the ashes. It's kind of some Phoenix type shit.
That
it's like
too.
The Titans died and we were reborn from them. It's kind of...
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's true. That's true. That was in my notes too.
The Garden of Eden. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
That was actually just the next thing in my notes. Dionysus he's dismembered and reborn just like Osiris and Jesus. Jesus was dismembered. He was fucking
brutally.
almost dropped an F-bomb. He was like whipped and stabbed and
like,
cut up, and he was like capped and
capped
on a cross and
Rip Jesus I just did the episode with the Rip Jesus double fisting natty lights.
you made the edit.
He did.
You made the edit.
I put it in the, okay.
Oh my god.
You sent me the picture, I think.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I'll show you. I wanted to take you off track to talk about. I feel like when I was learning about the crucifixion in Catholic school, they stabbed him in the side.
The spear of destiny.
And water came out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not blood, but water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what they said. That's the spear of destiny.
Wait, there's another name for it. That spear. The spear. What's the
spear of destiny?
I thought there was like some fancy name for
I
the
never
spear.
learned the spear of destiny.
That's the spear that inflicted the
Spear
final
of Destiny
wound
is
on
a
the
Tenacious D movie.
That's the pick of
That's
destiny.
the pick of destiny. Yeah, you had me thinking for a second.
I forgot.
They stabbed Jesus with a pick.
Yeah.
We haven't even mentioned the best part. What's Jesus' first miracle?
Turning water to wine.
Dionysus.
Wine. Getting drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was at
his first miracle.
Yes,
Like
in the
very
book of
in the
book of
Bible.
Mark, which is the
Yes.
first gospel written.
He turned 21 and just pulled a miracle.
Yes, he was definitely 21.
There's actually some cultural context to that. Back in the day, I mean, first of all, Israel's like they lived in the desert. You know,
Yeah.
It's not like there was just always clean water around. So what do? They drank a lot of wine. And I'm not just like making this up either. I learned this from a scholar who, a religious scholar.
Well, same thing as to why the whole stereotype of sailors being drunk is because it was easier to have sterile beer than it was to have sterile water.
Yeah, but they would store wine like in the shade in their cellars, and they just always had wine. And Jesus was at a party. They had water. Nobody's gonna drink the water. It's nasty. You know? He's like, all right, wave his hand, do a little magic.
Turn up.
Turn up, boy. Turn up the wine.
We're about to get loose.
But so
Jesus was turned. That's all I'm saying.
He was, dude. I'm telling you, he was jacked.
He was jacked. He was drinking Natty Light, and he was turned.
And wine.
And wine. Well, that's the real secret. Is in those Natty Light cans.
They were wine coolers.
That was his real first miracle. He turned Natty Light to wine.
All right. In this episode, same picture.
Yes.
Wine coolers.
Yeah. He's got a Natty Light in one hand and a wine cooler in the other one.
It's popping up on the screen as you saying.
Okay, bet.
Yeah, dude, I like that. We're just gonna like stain people's subconscious minds with images of Jesus just ripped, dude.
Ripped and just double fisting alcohol.
Yeah, and then we'll do another Marvel episode and we'll color him green. It'll be Hulk Jesus.
Okay. All right.
We'll think about it.
That's a straight. I'm not doing green.
Yeah, that is definitely
no
a
green
stretch.
Jesus.
I'll
One
have to check it
archetype
out.
at a time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the gist of what the Orphics believe. Like it's about purifying the soul, reincarnation. But I'm gonna take a kind of like a left turn.
Okay.
There is some evidence that tries to link the mystery initiations of Eleusis, which back in the day was like the spiritual capital, especially of Europe. You ever heard of like the oracles of Delphi and stuff like that? Like,
yeah.
People would go on these pilgrimages to meet these like mystics and sages and prophets and stuff like that. Well, Eleusis was a center out by Athens where people would prepare their body for days or weeks and like fasting and just like being more pure. And they would travel to Eleusis and they would drink a magic potion called kykeon. That's real history. There's no question about that. There was a magic potion, right, called kykeon, and people would drink kykeon, and they would just like have these spiritual revelatory journeys for days, and then they would come back.
Like ayahuasca or something.
Well, it's believed that it might have been ergot root, which is what acid comes from.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
So they were having like psychedelic trips.
Yeah.
That's so epic.
Yeah. There's a genuine belief that these sages and mystics of the past were connecting to the spirit world through psychedelic potions.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Ergot root. The guy who
psychedelics just go way back in like every religion or it's everywhere. Well, in ancient esoteric history and stuff.
Yeah.
Not exoteric, but like esoteric
for
definitely.
Sure. The most ancient form of shamanism, the most ancient form of spirituality is shamanism.
Yeah.
where they would use cannabis, mushrooms, and ayahuasca, which is plant
And those little like
DMT.
toads that you lick, apparently.
Yeah, dude.
That's a thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's gross.
I didn't make it up, dude.
Plato himself went to Eleusis and had one of these hallucinogenic journeys. He writes.
Whoa.
He wrote about it.
What?
He spoke of Eleusis as the holiest of mysteries, where he experienced a state of perfection and was blessed with sight and vision. Plato is arguably the most famous philosopher of all time. He's extremely influential.
Yeah.
It's like recommended reading in many philosophy courses to read Plato's Republic.
Oh, totally.
And he literally not only went to Eleusis and drank the magic potion Kykeon, but also was believed to be, someone of the Orphic Mysteries. But then you have Pythagoras, and then you have Heraclitus, and all these other famous philosophers writing about the Orphics. Now, the reason I really wanted to talk about Orphism was not to try to sell people on some ancient Greek cult. I'm not I'm not practicing Orphism.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm kind of what I'm really interested in is, from my perspective, trying to show people, hey, I've seen beings my whole life. Like, they're real. They're beings of light, really. And I know that there's a spiritual reality. There's a spirit world, whatever. Christianity, religion gets a bad rap. And I feel compelled to try to like track down the historical evidence and trace the exoteric versions of religion to their secret counterparts and kind of find how they are receiving lineage from Egypt.
Yeah, it's like you're tracking back and showing like this isn't some new age thing that we're pulling out of nowhere.
Exactly.
This is real ancient stuff. You know what's funny? I was talking to my dad today, actually on the way over here, and we were talking about, my dad is a very deep thinker too.
Yeah,
we could be talking about like socks one second, and the next second we're talking about like death and resurrection. Like, it's just that's how our conversations go. And we were talking about God, and he asked me, because he is a traditional Christian, and he was asking me like kind of how I believe or whatever, and if I believe, how I believe, whatever. And I kind of told him, like, I think God is everything. I think God is everything and every body, every living thing. I think God is light, and like, that, whatever. I
was about to say that.
God is light. Yeah. And he said, wow, that's really new age. And I was like, no, Dad, it's not. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, it's the most ancient belief system. It's the most ancient knowledge. And I just like told him, like, just check out like Hermeticism, and that'll. I was like, watch the podcast. I told him, I was like, just watch our podcast, Dad. You'll get it.
Dude, I was talking about this with Jenny yesterday, and she said, you guys really need to do an episode on light. Like light. The whole subject is light. But I was kind of thinking about that. Like, there's 7. We just did this, I guess, in the chakras episode.
With the lights, right?
Yeah, but
with the colors.
There's 7 Newtonian colors.
Can we call that episode "Keeping It Light"?
Keeping it light. The light episode.
I like that.
Yeah, or we call it "Lighten Up."
Lighten up.
Lighten up.
That's good.
I like that.
Yeah, you got to lighten up. Man,
or it could be like crystals, light.
Yeah, it could be that too.
Oh, that's a stretch.
I don't know, man. I think it's cool.
That's a stretch, but we did get our crystals reference. Hey, don't forget, the amethyst is the stone of Dionysus.
Listen, I was starting to get nervous because we're like probably halfway through the episode or more, and I hadn't heard a crystal reference, so I had to just figure something out. It didn't work very well, but we checked it off.
It was crystal clear.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice save. Nice save.
It was a nice try. But,
Did you say amethyst is the crystal, like Dionysus? It's associated with Dionysus?
Yeah. We just told you this on the previous episode. It blew your mind. Don't you remember?
Blow it again.
Okay, so
dude, listen. If there's a single thing we've established here is I have a horrible memory, so you can blow my mind every episode with the same information.
So amethyst comes from the Greek word amethystos, which means not drunk, and it has the purple color. Naturally, that's the frequency that it vibrates at, because light is an actual frequency that vibrates at a certain specific frequency, even light itself.
Yeah.
So amethyst crystals, they're purple for that reason. Anyway.
That's right. I do remember now.
Yeah, and in ancient Greece, they attributed it to wine because wine at the time was primarily purple.
Right, yeah.
and Dionysus is the god of wine in Greece, so they would
So it
say
makes
amethyst
sense.
is the stone of Dionysus. It's the sacred crystal of Dionysus.
That's badass.
Yeah. But when you think about it, God really is kind of like a light.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, how did we get on this from Orphism? I don't know.
That's how this show goes.
I'm cool with it.
That's how this show
I've
goes.
I've already run out of my notes on Orphism, so it's like
We start here and we end outside.
yeah.
Yeah.
There is no box.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Neo trying to bend the
There
spoon.
is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Um.
No, but yeah, God is like, and like, what's cool? If they observe, or when they observe like an egg and a sperm, when the sperm like meets the egg, there's a flash of light.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's literally a flash of light. It's like the soul is light. Like
It is.
which like the soul is God. Like
You want to go even crazier, dude?
Let's do it.
My dad got involved. Now let me like kind of set that up. He didn't like get studied by the Rhine Center, which is a famous parapsychology. There was a guy named J.B. Rhine. He was like a famous parapsychologist. He died a long time ago. And out by Duke, they have a center called the Rhine Center. It's like Rhine, like a rhinestone. That was his last name. Anyway, so at the Rhine Center, they still do parapsychology studies and research and things like that. And they've kind of like, the director has befriended my dad. They've taken us out to events with them. Really nice people. They did a study where they took blood and they put it in like a petri dish and they put it in extreme low light conditions. And when they would like make the blood cell lyse, which means like it, basically explodes. I mean, we're talking about little molecules here.
Yeah.
Light, they could capture photons being released from cells of blood. Yeah. Photons.
What?
Yeah.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah. Light isn't everything. Light's in the food you eat. The plants, the animals eating the plants. What are they doing? They're soaking up light.
There's also that experiment. Yeah, good point. Actually, yeah.
You're eating light. We eat light.
Yeah. That's wild when you say it like, light.
Yeah, light is in everything.
You got to make a meme of Homer Simpson eating donuts, but instead of saying donuts, it's light.
Yeah, that's a good one.
In my
That's a
head,
good
I
one.
was thinking chowder.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
It's a little more of a deep cut.
The
Chowder's
little
a
cartoon?
Chowder's
Yeah.
a good show.
That's
It
a
is.
weird show.
Robber,
weird.
robber.
But weird is good.
That show is
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Light.
Yo, there's also that experiment, and I'm sure we've talked about it before, where they like shine light through like a big lead block or something, like a tiny little hole that
Photon double slit experiment.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah. He knew the name, which is cool.
Yeah.
Which
You
is
want to
way
go into
cool.
that?
Yeah, it's epic.
Yeah.
You talk
So
about it. Yeah.
this is like quantum mechanics, quantum physics, which I mean they're like kind of being like, stop, don't call us spiritual, but like it ain't science, dude. It's like using science to study the spirit world. They're being all shy about it, and
Stop it.
yeah, like
Oh my God, Ron!
we're scientists, but
Stop.
they're like literally studying the most fundamental particles of reality that like cause us to operate on the quantum level. It's spirit science, quantum mechanics,
Spirit
quantum
science.
physics. They're literally studying the spooky particles that exist behind atoms. You know what I mean? It's basically observing the spirit reality.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So you're
Weird
saying the
stuff.
scientists are being that way, or the light is?
No, well, the light too.
The light is.
That's
too.
funny.
That's what
The
I'm
light
saying.
is too. The light is
Yeah.
too.
No, I'm just making a joke because like
Yeah, the
it's-
light's like,
it's-
stop, don't look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
but like I'm a quantum physicist. Great, yeah, you're studying the spirit world. You're studying the rules behind reality. They act like it's this whole
Actually.
Yeah,
science-
exactly.
yeah, like-
That's exactly the vibe.
Yeah, like it's basically spiritual
actually-
science. They're studying the spirit world. I mean, I'm just saying, let's be more honest about it here. And what they observed was that every photon of light is intelligent, literally has an intelligent consciousness. And they actually in 2015, they proved, some Australian scientists verified that quantum entanglement between atoms across
It's a real
space
thing.
and time is real. Yeah,
Spooky
they-
action at a distance.
spooky action at a distance. Yeah, they proved that to be real.
The coolest term of any science thing
Is
ever.
that the official term?
Spooky action at a distance.
Yeah, Einstein created that term.
Einstein, yeah.
Yeah, spooky action is what he called
Spooky?
it. It's spooky because it defies mechanical science.
They call things that defy science spooky. They
Spooky.
literally, that's the term for it.
spooky action.
It's SAAD.
Yeah. Sad.
Wow.
SAAD.
SAAD. Yeah.
I don't know. How's
Yeah.
that relevant?
Spooky action at a distance.
How's
Is that 3 A's?
Yes, 3 A's. SAAD.
Sad.
I feel enriched with
big-
knowledge now.
Big, big acronym guy over
Yeah.
here.
Alex got to make an acronym for everything.
Alex
We're
has
gonna
his like conspiracy board of like acronyms.
Yo, hey, if Herb, shout out Herbie, if he
Shout out
hears
Herbie,
this,
my former boss.
he will be laughing.
Really?
I'm a big acronym guy because Herb's a big acronym guy.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird.
We got to have shirts that say sad.
We'll have shirts to say shout out Herbie.
Shout out
Yeah.
Herbie.
Shout out
Yeah.
Herbie.
So the photon double slit experiment, anyway, back to that, is quantum physicists determine that light is conscious and intelligent, because what they did is they would take this, it's a slit, it's literally a tiny slit, and they would shoot a single photon through this slit. Now, scientifically, the human eye can't detect photons unless there are at least 60 present. There has to be 60 photons for you to see even the most infinitesimal amount of light, right? So one photon, that's not detectable by the 5 human senses. You need some crazy devices.
Yeah.
And they were shooting a photon,
One single photon.
one single photon through a slit. And then they got to the point in the experiment where they were shooting side by side 2 photons through, a photon side by side through 2 different slits. And what they would notice is when they had a device like a camera or whatever kind of instrument, not literally a camera, but they had this device to record where the photon ended up on its journey after being shot out of a little photon gun. It would go in a straight line. It would just touch the little target, and they would record photon went straight.
Yeah.
Right. Now, when they stopped recording the photon, and they only measured the final destination, like they recorded where the photon ended up, the photon behaved as a particle and a wave, both photons. The outcomes that they recorded were infinite number of possibilities, and every non-infinite number, whatever that means.
Those like theoretical numbers or whatever.
Theoretical outcomes. The light broke down from behaving as a mechanical particle and behaved as a wave. The light is intelligent and knows when it's not being observed that it changes its form.
How do you explain that? Like, I mean, how do
It's
people?
consciousness.
How do those people that are like, stop? How do they explain it?
Yeah. Oh, it's there's got to be a scientific reason.
Yeah, it's like, is there? Tell me what it is. What
I
is
think
it?
I honestly, I'm just kidding. I really do think that 100% the spiritual reality can be proven with science, but the elite at the very tippy top, they just don't want people to have access to those higher levels of knowledge. But that's what spirit science is, the occult. It's the spiritual science.
Yeah.
I
also find that there's like a lot of scientists who like implicitly deny any possibility of a spiritual realm or spirits or the soul or whatever. But it's like science is the pursuit of the things that we don't know. And there's still like hella things we don't know.
Yeah.
But there's things that we do know and still can't explain. So it's like you can't even be open to the possibility.
Well, it's a dogma. It's a paradigm that is being pushed from the top down. It's like a pyramid type structure. You have the elite at the top, and then the public education institutions, they teach a certain thing that's in line with that Rockefeller school system. What is it that they want the world to know? We live in a little material reality and there's nothing more. So watch this Arby's commercial and buy our roast beef. Or like watch this Apple commercial and buy our Apple Watch. You're a stupid freaking sheep. Don't question that there's a spiritual reality. You can go to church and you can get the little mainstream Christian version if you feel like you want to fantasize about a spirit, and that's all you get. You just get Christianity. And by the way, all that higher spiritual knowledge, you better watch out because it's the evil new age occult.
Yeah.
They treat us like we're idiots.
Yeah. They like push you into a corner and say like, you can have Christianity, but also Christianity tells you can't believe in anything else. So
yeah, it's
watch yourself.
It's a very like multi-layered mechanism of mind control that's being perpetrated on the population. And, for an atheist thinker, they're going to go to the scientists in their little white lab coats that are like the priestly class, and they're like, it's all like Darwinian evolution and the Big Bang. It's just not. It's just not the way it is. I'm sorry, bro, but go to the Mason Lodge. Go to the Mason Lodge. That's your president's.
I'm sorry, bro. Go to the Mason Lodge.
I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like you're wasting your time being an atheist, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
Every time you do that voice, your shoulders get up here.
Yeah, because it's like you gotta like get into the character.
Okay.
Yeah. It's method acting.
You're really you're becoming the character.
Yeah.
Who is
It's a
that, by the way?
spirit,
Who is this?
I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's kind of like what Aleister Crowley predicted was in the Aeon of Horus. It would be a secular, meaning atheistic, age of reason. That's the push from the elites, is to get everybody broken down morally, spiritually, religiously, and have everyone believe in this atheist paradigm. It's concealed Luciferianism. But what?
Well, you pulled me back into this conversation. I'm sitting here trying to figure out where I can buy a photon gun.
You ain't buying a photon.
You ain't buying a photon gun.
You might need a grant for like $50,000.
Alex,
or
you got photon gun money, son?
I don't. I'm just trying to find a picture of it.
What you doing at this podcast?
He just heard the word gun. He's like, I want this.
Yeah. Gun? What?
That really is what.
Gun?
And now you're talking about the collapse of society, and you're kind of going borderline conspiracy, and now I'm fully back.
I'm not being borderline.
He's now I'm fully back.
I wear many hats, Alex.
I know, man.
Just because I usually talk to our lovely listeners about like spiritual shit, don't mean I don't sometimes throw on my conspiracy hat.
Right,
you're
kind of stepping into my department. I'm getting.
I grew up being groomed by the cocaine import agency, bro.
Hey,
you know?
Yeah.
He's about to call HR.
Anyway, we got to stop.
It's a cat,
last time we
by the
talked
way.
about this shit, they took down our ads on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
We got demonetized.
What?
Yeah.
We're real.
That's a big achievement.
We're
for
real
me.
YouTubers now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hell
I'll show
yeah.
you. Yeah.
We got
Congratulations,
demonetized.
everybody.
High five. We
Yeah.
can actually have five.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
Sorry,
fun
Alex,
over
you're
there.
Hell yeah.
One day.
Stay in your corner, Alex.
Yeah, you're on your little lonely island.
Okay,
We'll get
I
you on
love you.
camera someday.
I love you.
Actually, people on YouTube really are like, get Alex on camera. Get Alex on camera. Why not?
We
Bet.
did, no, we're,
Hey, by the time this is out, I have been.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
true that, true
yeah, 2
that.
episodes.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
yeah. Alex has too pretty a face to not be on camera.
Yeah, Alex is definitely he's our hunk.
No doubt. Yeah. He's the trade of the,
Jenny's
of
over
the
there in
show.
shock. She's gasping.
She's mad because we didn't say she's the hunk.
Yeah. But
She's got
so
real FOMO
back
right
to
now.
back to the 7 Newtonian colors. We'll get away from the meta topic and we'll bring it back to the beings. Bledsoe, say the line. Talk about your
Dance,
dad.
monkey, dance!
Talk about your dad. We get a huge spike in episodes where we talk about dad.
Huge. Huge.
Say the line, dude. So the beings told my dad that Amun-Ra is the true hidden god. What is Amun-Ra? According to the ancient Egyptians, he's light. He's literally light. He's
Yeah.
the light. Not only is he the light that springs forth from the sun, obviously a metaphor, but also not. We'll get into that. But not only is Ra the light that springs forth and brings all life that we can see in this visible material universe, but he's also the invisible light animating the material world from the spiritual world. That's why he's Amun-Ra. Amun is the invisible part of creation. Ra is the visible part of creation. It's the duality, the black and the white, the yin and the yang. Black and white doesn't just mean good and evil. It's just every layer of reality is dual.
Is duality.
Yeah, that's one of the Hermetic laws. You know,
Mhm.
it's
Everything's
everything
dual.
is dual. Everything has an opposite.
Mhm.
And you know, so God, I mean, they already said it. The beings already showed up as beings of light, and they've already said like, hey, you know, Amun-Ra, like he's our boss. Like he's the hidden god. You know, he's legit, and he's light. Okay, check. They already told me that. I'm with it, but I kind of want to dig a little deeper. I wanted to get a little more into it.
Yeah.
Because I do actually, believe it or not, I'm into all this mystical shit, but like I have a science brain. You know,
Yeah.
like this is an act. Obviously, what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I do have a very rational, analytical brain. And I started to think about it. And you have the 7 Newtonian colors, right? When they're all combined, what are they?
White light.
RGB.
White light. Yeah.
Is that what you're talking
Good
about?
job, Alex.
The highest frequency band of light is just
White light.
it's
Pure.
just white light.
Pure light. Yeah.
You know what's crazy about that, man? You dive into like esoteric witchcraft, you dive into like psychic shit. And ancient Hinduism. They had an ancient Sanskrit word called Gyarti Dhyana, which was one of their sacred prayers where you visualize the white light within your soul cleansing all of your chakras.
Oh.
And I started thinking
wow.
about it. Like I had a mind-blowing astrology reading last week, and freaking mind-blowing for me personally.
Why don't we? You want to talk about?
Yeah,
it?
sure. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And I had that mind-blowing reading. It honestly shook me. And one of the things he told me was because I have Neptune in the first house that I was, according to the astrology, born a very psychic sensitive individual. And he said that I would benefit from meditation. And I'm like, duh.
I think most people would,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, but like we've had like the Monroe Institute. They're knocking on our door right now.
Right.
And well, I'm not supposed to say that publicly, but
Oopsie.
I'll let it slide, Dad. And freaking like the CIA psychic spies have been sending me like HemiSync tapes, like trying to get me into meditation. Timothy Taylor, somewhat well-known guy who's like in the Department of Defense, was trying to get my dad into Kundalini yoga to awaken his psychic powers. Like the government has been grooming us. Like, you guys need to freaking meditate, dude. You know, like get your psychic abilities up. And we were like Southern Christians. We're not into yoga and shit. You know, back then.
Oh, for sure.
Back then.
Yeah.
And anyway, so after the astrology reading, I start researching more meditation, and that I stumbled across that and even in ancient Hinduism in the East, and Tibetan Hindu Buddhism, they had this sacred meditation where you visualize white light purifying your chakras.
Wow.
So it's just crazy. Like there's this clear connection between white light and Eastern and Western mystical traditions, namely Hermeticism. God is the mind, but also light.
Yeah.
So kind of crazy. So you want to go into the astrology thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I completely forgot we were planning on talking about that.
Yeah, I did too. Actually,
Yeah,
I was gonna start the episode with
we can finish this episode by talking about that.
Yeah. How much time do we have left?
Like 10 minutes, probably.
A little less, but yeah. We should,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
Let's go.
Cool.
So this is a different person.
Yes.
Than did mine.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say any sort of names or anything of that nature,
Mhm.
but about 6 months ago, I met somebody through a friend who is a gifted astrologer, and she did a reading for everybody in the podcast group, like you, Casey, Alex, Jenny. She did my sister, both my brothers, my mom, and my dad. Never did one for me. Wouldn't do one. That's cool.
Yeah.
I was just like, I guess I don't get one. I don't know. I mean, I thought of everybody first. I should have got one for me first, but I'm glad I didn't. And in my mind, I was like, maybe it wasn't meant to be for me to have a reading from her because, I kind of believe iron sharpens iron. And I thought maybe it's in the cards for me to meet someone who's maybe like as gifted as me in the occult or the spiritual things, like
Okay.
maybe it would take somebody of that caliber to transmit this meaningful reading for me. And I met this guy named Cliff, super nice guy. Oh, I was gonna mention his website too, because he
Where'd you find this guy?
He joins my Twitter lives every time.
Really?
Yeah,
Cool.
So shout out
Cliff.
Oh, I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah, you
Cool.
guys have both probably talked to.
Yeah,
He's the Enochian magic guy. Remember, you
I
guys.
want a
have talked-
reading from Cliff.
I can probably get you.
want me to drop it on the screen?
That'd be cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
all right.
I told him I'd mention his website. It's called it's called yourlightbridge.com. No funky spelling there. It's just the simple words YOUR lightbridge.com. Now, he just recently got certified in astrology. He might not have links on there, but if you just get in touch with him through his website, he is now a certified astrologer. Very nice guy. We've chatted on 3 or 4 occasions on like Twitter lives. Very knowledgeable. He's into Enochian magic, which is not as scary and evil as it sounds. It's actually really cool stuff. And
Enochian? That doesn't
Enochian.
have anything to do with Enoch, does it?
It does. Enochian.
Whoa.
Yeah, like John Dee, Edward Kelly.
Oh,
Back
same.
in like the 1500s or something like that.
Gotcha.
They discovered the Enochian tablets, which was like this angelic language with these
Right.
symbols. And that's a whole episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
I'd love to have Cliff actually maybe do an episode about that with us. But anyway, so he did a reading for me after our Twitter live this Wednesday, and it went like an hour, and he just broke it down for me. And I don't recall every planet and every house off the top of my head because it's just like all this mind-blowing information, but he had synthesized notes for me. I stayed up till like past midnight, like verifying everything he read to me on the internet, and it honestly blew my mind. And essentially, according to the stars, it was in my destiny to be born a powerfully gifted psychic who also with Neptune that was a shock to me because I've known I was psychic, but I've never really had the outside validation, other than the government like messing with us and stuff. A powerfully gifted psychic with Neptune in the first house. First house is your strongest house. Neptune is the mystical planet, the Poseidon, like under the water, mystical, cosmic abyss, whatever. Which, by the way, people with Neptune in the first have a inherent pull to live near the ocean.
Really?
I live by the beach. Yeah.
Literally. Yeah,
Yep,
that's
yep.
crazy.
And I've always had an affinity for Poseidon. He was always my favorite Greek god for some reason. Maybe that's why. I don't know. And then I have, which is apparently rare, I have Uranus in conjunction with Neptune in the first house. Now, when you have two planets in conjunction in the same house within 10 degrees of each other, that's what conjunction means. They're super close in their alignment. Their energies enhance each other. They magnify them like times 2. And Uranus in the first house means someone who was born to be a disruptive figure in the face of like old institutions, particularly like any sort of oppressive, religious, political, ideological. I think it was mid-heaven, or it was like Scorpio in mid-heaven or something like that, which indicated, now this is the funny part, it indicated that I was destined to be born to do something big and successful in the public with my close friend group. With
what?
Yeah, with my close
What?
friend group. And then I had...
I wonder what it's going to be.
I wonder, man.
How are you going to do that,
I
Ron?
wonder. As I talk into this microphone, to this... I wonder what it is.
I wonder.
I can't figure it out. And
Call me when you figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll call you. Yeah. I'll dial you up. Like, what are we doing, man? I had I can't remember what it was, like Jupiter in the 10th house or something like that. And it was all of the astrological things were indicating that I would do something. I would have some really messed up occult shit happen to me in my childhood, particularly some like traumas associated with my father. My dad went on TV when I was 13 and everyone hated us and treated us like shit. For many years.
Check.
Spooky occult, beings of light coming down, touching me, giving us revelations. Check. In the public with my friends, podcast. Check. And I had Jupiter in the 10th or something like that. I can look it up, indicating that whatever I do in the public would be successful. All the signs pointed to this podcast, and I was like, "Damn! Oh my
crazy.
God!" It was my first, legit Western astrology read. Anyway, it just blew my mind.
That is so wild.
And God, there was one more thing with that. I can't.
With the reading?
Yeah, there was one more thing. I can't recall. But all good stuff.
Anything about music?
Oh, well, Neptune and the first are like, because it indicates that you're very physically and spiritually / psychically sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
That you would be like artistic.
There you go.
Creative, poetic. It also, I think it was Jupiter in the 10th. I can't remember, but it indicated that I would inherit something of an occult nature that I would take, and it would like basically be my purpose, my destiny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
something
really...
of an occult nature would be my
Damn.
purpose. But because I have that Uranus in the first, I would use my nature to disrupt institutions.
That's really like explicit. That's
it's
really
very explicit.
Yeah.
And I can show you the breakdown. I can get the write up on it. It's just off the fly. I forgot we were going to talk about that tonight, but it was crazy. It literally. Oh, here was the thing. This was what I was going to say. He even ran transits from the past because the stars don't change. They don't just like accidentally bump out of line. They're there.
Bump.
Yeah, bump. Right. It's a synchronicity. He ran a transit, and he was like, well, according to this, May of 2020 would be a wait. May of 2021. It's 2022 now. I'm sorry. Last year. I was thinking last year.
Yeah.
Last year's
it gets
2021.
me. Yeah.
It's getting me because we're
last
still in
year will
January.
always be 2020.
I know.
Yeah.
He said according to your chart, May of 2021 is where you would have a profound breakthrough with your traumas, where you would learn to be able to finally authentically express yourself outwardly facing. And I was like, wow, that's when we recorded the first podcast episode.
Yeah. We recorded the first podcast episode there.
Interesting.
That is just
What a
too
night.
spot on. Yeah, I know. What a night. Yeah.
One night.
That's too spot on.
But you know what's the craziest part to me? The craziest part was that because of, it was like Scorpio in midheaven or whatever, it indicated that whatever I do with success would be specifically tied with my close friend group. I was like, wait a minute.
I wonder.
I wonder what that means.
What exactly is that talking about?
Interesting.
That's so spot on.
Yeah.
That's so exact. Yeah,
Interesting.
I want a reading from that guy.
Yeah, I'll ask him for sure.
Yo,
He offered to like do stuff
Really?
for us.
So-
yeah.
I have a question.
Also, like, maybe we could have him on. That would be
That's
crazy.
okay.
Oh,
Don't
I would
steal
love
it from
that.
me.
Astrology episode.
No, well, I was gonna say if he did this over the phone, what are the odds he would want to zoom in with us and do one live?
Well, he does Zoom for the readings.
yeah.
Dude.
Would he want to do an episode? We should find out.
I wouldn't want to put him on the spot and do
Sure,
a reading live
sure.
because that's like a
Right.
job he's trying to build.
Right,
you
right,
know?
right,
But
right.
I'm sure if I asked him, I don't know. I mean, I didn't bring up him being on an episode, but maybe
Yeah.
I would love to ask him.
Either way, shout out Cliff.
Shout out Cliff.
That's
He's
awesome.
a very nice guy, very, very knowledgeable. And he honestly blew my mind pretty big. It takes a lot to blow my mind, you know. But anyway, maybe we're doing something good here. Hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, like, if I'm being honest, because on the one hand, on the other side of the camera, you guys are listening. Hopefully you're enjoying, and like this is really fun for you guys to tune into. But on the other hand, for me, it's like there's an emotional attachment to this because the shit actually happened to me when I was a child, when I was like not even hit puberty yet. You know what I'm saying? And like as an adult, this stuff for me is here's what's happening. This is what Bledsoe said so really is, like the truth behind it, the meta perspective, if you will. I'm a 28-year-old dude going on microphone and camera, and I'm like doing this little song and dance. I'm telling people like this messed up shit happened to me, guys, and they love it.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe we're doing something good. I don't know. I hope you guys enjoy it so far, but it's very real. you know,
Yeah, I mean,
to me,
we get it. I feel like we have the greatest listeners. Like that, we get a ton of amazing support just from you guys. Like the things you say to us is so kind. You always have the nicest words. Like it really, really warms our hearts. The things that you guys say and the way that you guys participate. And we're working on more ways for you guys to participate and more ways to connect with you guys.
soon,
Very soon.
very soon, like March
Very
soon.
Yes.
Like March soon.
March soon. Very soon.
Very, very soon. So I'm gonna leave it with this. Normally we don't have a hard closeout. We normally go bye guys, and the music plays, and it's like not scripted. But this just crossed my mind. And I feel like compelled to say it. We really are trying to do something different here that no one's ever done before. It's pretty obvious that some really crazy, powerful stuff has happened on my property. Like big, like director of Pentagon, big, coming to us and investigating us big. And like this is fun. This is an outlet for me, therapeutically, creatively, artistically. And it's really like, quite literally, I'm telling you the truth. Like this is healing my soul. Thank you for listening. We're already drafting up the next movie.
Yeah.
Hit him with a bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Weird things happen in the